The Public Safety Committee will begin as a subcommittee. We have a number of bills to go through today. Well, first let me start by saying a number of items have been removed from the agenda at the request of the author. Item 5, AB 1276 by Santiago. Item 25, AB 2390 by Brown. Item 20, AB 1998 by Campos, and item 28, AB 2513 by Williams. We also have a number of items on the consent calendar. AB 1001 by Mainshine, AB 1272 by Grove, item 1703 by Santiago, item 12, item 14, AB 1769 by Rodriguez, item 15, AB 1829 by Levine, item 19, 1953 by Weber, item 21, AB 1999 by Akajian, item 23, AB 2061 by Waldron, item 26, AB 2457 by Bloom, item 27, AB 2505 by Quirk, item 30, AB 2655 by Weber, and item 31, AB 2721 by Rodriguez. So when we have a quorum, we'll have a vote on the consent calendar, but as of now, we'll begin with our members who are here and have been waiting patiently. We'll start with Assemblyman Stone. Item 18, AB 1945.
We're starting with the subcommittee.
And I said that.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Okay.
Good thing you're here.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Senators, AB 1945 is a cleanup of AB 666 from last year, and it continues the work that Senator Leno started in 2014 with SB 1038. And what this provides is a narrow targeted exemption to permit child welfare agencies to open up records that had been sealed in order to make appropriate placement decisions. It provides some other clarifications, and I'm also would like to take the amendment suggested in the analysis at the end and deleting lines 28 through 33 of page 3 of the bill, beginning with a person, so that section of, so thank you. We're happy to take that. Appreciate the work that your staff had done on this bill, and I ask for an aye vote.
Thank you very much. Speakers in support of the bill.
Good morning, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is Alyssa Skolnick with the Office of Los Angeles County Counsel, working in dependency court since 1998. I am here today on behalf of the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors in support of AB 1945, which would add a narrow, targeted exception to permit child welfare agencies to have access to sealed case information that is necessary for making appropriate placement and services decisions that affect these youth's lives. In addition, when older youth seek reentry into foster care, child welfare agencies would be able to access juvenile records for purposes of placement, mental health services, and other necessary services. The viewing of the record by child welfare agencies does not unseal the records or change the disposition of the ward's case in any way. It also does not allow for further dissemination of the record. This harmonizes the need for appropriate record sealing for juveniles who have completed their probation with the need to ensure proper placement and services are provided to all children in foster care. For these reasons, I urge your aye vote on this measure. Thank you.
Thank you. Others in support?
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Kathy Sunderling with the County Welfare Directors Association, also working closely with the County of Los Angeles and the sponsors of the previous bill on this very narrow exception to enable that the placement and services are provided appropriately to our children who come into foster care and ensure their safety and that we're serving them properly. We appreciate your aye vote.
And David Steiner from the Commonweal Juvenile Justice Program. We've worked closely with the author and others on AB 666 and Senator Leno's bill 1038 that created this process. Part of our job is to help ensure that carve-outs or exceptions where the records after they're sealed are accessed under compelling circumstances, that those carve-outs are fair and reasonable. And so we've worked with the amendment sought by child welfare directors. We think it's reasonable under the circumstances and fair and quite limited, and so we support that change. The rest of the bill is purely technical and conforming, and I'm happy to answer any questions that might come up in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there others in support of the bill? Are there speakers in opposition to the bill?
Good morning, Micah Doctoroff on behalf of the ACLU of California here in support of the bill.
Thank you. Others in support? Speakers in opposition to the bill? Seeing and hearing none, are there questions or comments from members of the committee, or was there a motion? Oh, indeed. Thank you so much. We do have 4 members here. Secretary, please take the roll.
Hancock.
Here.
Hancock here. Anderson. Glazer. Here. Glazer here. Leno. Lou. Here. Lou here. Monning. Stone. Stone here.
Okay, and while we're at it, I would accept a motion on the consent calendar. Thank you. Moved by Stone. Please read the roll.
Hancock.
Aye.
Hancock, aye. Anderson. Glazer.
Aye.
Glazer, aye. Leno. Lou. Lou, aye. Monning. Stone. Stone, aye.
Okay, good. Thank you, everybody. Back to the subject at hand. Are there any questions or comments for the author?
I would just like to commend Assemblyman Stone for bringing this forward. Having worked in a county, this is going to certainly help our staffs with the social services and then sealing these records to make sure that these children are properly placed. It seems that this is very fair and very reasonable, and appreciate your efforts to help these kids out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to close?
Ask for your aye vote.
Thank you very much.
Hancock.
Aye.
Hancock, aye. Anderson. Glazer.
Aye.
Glazer, aye. Leno. Lou. Lou, aye. Monning. Stone. Stone, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good start to the day from all of us. Next, we have Assembly Member Santiago, item 10, AB 1674.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair and members. AB 1674 would limit the purchase of firearms to 1 per month. When our staff and I went back to take a look at how to try to reduce the gun violence that's happening, particularly in this state, we took a look at, the nation. We took a look at the last 3 decades of mass shootings, and we examined about 143 of the guns that were used, and 72, almost exactly half of that amount, were long guns. When we took a look at the issue a little closer here in California, we took a look at the fact that somebody could, after passing a background check and waiting for 10 days, buy an unlimited amount of long guns, while at the same time the law only allows you to buy 1 handgun per month. And in fact, we found a case in April 2014 where one individual here in California bought 177 long guns at one time. To me, that was mind-boggling. I could not understand why somebody would need that many guns and for what intention, but nonetheless, the ability for that to happen has happened. So AB 1674 would cap the amount of firearms that could be purchased by 1 person to 1 firearm per month per person. And I think this is a common sense solution to reducing the guns that land on our streets and potentially also reducing the gun violence. I have 2 witnesses, and we will be brief, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Witnesses in support, please.
Morning. My name is Ari Freilich, and on behalf of the Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence, I urge you to support this legislation, the Law Center's priority bill this session. In 1999, the California legislature enacted our state's one handgun per month law, which generally prohibits a person from purchasing more than one handgun from a
You could
licensed...
just talk a little slower.
Sure, I'm sorry about that. Had a lot of coffee this morning.
Yeah, right.
Our one handgun per month law generally prohibits a person from purchasing more than one handgun per month from a licensed dealer in our state. This law helps to curb the flow of handguns on the illegal market and prevents dangerous individuals from quickly amassing stockpiles of weapons. However, current law does not apply this restriction to long guns or to handguns sold by an unlicensed seller. As a result, existing California law allows dangerous individuals to quickly amass unlimited quantities of firearms in our state, including both long guns and, quote, used handguns. This loophole allows gun traffickers to easily purchase large numbers of firearms for illegal distribution to criminals and other prohibited persons, and allows individuals who intend to perpetrate violence themselves, like mass shooters, to quickly stockpile large numbers of their weapons. A University of Pennsylvania report to the National Institute of Justice found that guns purchased in a multiple sale were 64% more likely to be used for illegal purposes than guns purchased individually. And ATF, in a 2009 report, similarly characterized purchases of multiple long guns as a, quote, significant indicator of gun trafficking. AB 1674 would combat gun trafficking in our state while placing reasonable limitations on dangerous individuals' ability to obtain mass quantities of guns for unlawful purposes. We believe this is smart, targeted legislation and urge your aye vote.
Thank you.
My name is Nick Wilcox. I'm here on behalf of the 27 chapters of the Brady Campaign to Prevent Gun Violence, and I would like to answer Assemblymember Santiago's question, why on earth does somebody need 177 long guns in 1 month? We're the ones who uncovered that information by making the original Public Record Act request. We did a subsequent Public Record Act request and found that those 177 long guns in 1 month were entirely composed of lower receivers, which are relatively inexpensive and can be built up into fully functioning assault weapons. And so what that person and what is happening in about 20% of multiple long gun sales is that people are buying quantities of lower receivers and building them out into fully functioning assault weapons and then trafficking them. So those 177 guns that were purchased in April 2014 all went into the illegal market. And we believe that multiple long gun purchases are fueling the illegal market and are fueling gun traffickers. And so we urge you to pass this bill to try and put a dent in the illegal gun market. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there others in support of the bill? Seeing and hearing none, are there speakers in opposition to the bill?
Madam Chairman, members of the committee, Craig DeLuz here on behalf of the Firearms Policy Coalition, as well as Gun Owners of California. I guess, first of all, in reference to the Assemblyman's question, when it comes to the exercising of a constitutionally enumerated right, it's not a question of whether or not you need to. It's not a question of whether or not I need to go to church on more than one day of the week. It's not a question of whether or not I need to attend more than one rally on the steps of the state capitol. It's not a question of whether or not I need to send more than one email to more than one legislator on a particular item. We're talking about, once again, the exercise of a constitutionally enumerated right. And if we are going to ration that right, well, then there ought to be a significant reason as to why we would allow that to happen. Now, let's talk about, first of all, the study that was cited by the support in this particular case. The study was, first of all, done in another state in another decade with a whole different set of laws. Some of the other things that were noted in that study was that women were I think we're much more likely to be the straw purchasers. But I don't see a bill here restricting the right of women to purchase firearms. It also noted that those who were minorities, African American and Latino, the guns were more likely to be recovered at a crime scene if they were purchased by them. That's what this study said. I don't see a bill here restricting their rights. When we start talking about, once again, limiting and restricting a constitutional right, there is no data, even including in this study, that demonstrates that restricting the right of a citizen to keep and bear arms will reduce gun violence. I do want to make one note. While we do commend the Assemblyman for trying to address the issue of inheritance through an amendment in the bill, there's one problem in that an individual, what happened was, if an individual inherits a firearm, first of all, or inherits a collection of firearms, first of all, the bill requires that that individual be named as the person to receive the firearm. So if it's just, in other words, if the individual is not named in the will, well, then they can only receive, once again, one firearm per month. The other problem is this. Now, once they've received the firearms, how do they get rid of them if they, in fact, don't really want them? The problem is they either have to, if they get a collection, which is not uncommon for someone to have a collection of 50 or more firearms. So now they either have to find 50 different buyers, or they have to go to the gun store once a month for 50 months in order to sell all of those firearms to a particular individual. Once again, I'll go back to my original argument. This is about an unreasonable restriction on a constitutional right that has no basis in fact, and so we encourage your no vote.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members. Roy Griffith speaking on behalf of the California Rifle and Pistol Association and the National Rifle Association. We're opposed to this bill mostly because it only unarms law-abiding citizens. Nothing in this bill will prohibit criminals from getting firearms. Criminals will still get firearms. By the way, criminals have gotten firearms for hundreds of years. Law-abiding citizens is the only one. There's numerous blocks already in place to keep a criminal from even purchasing one firearm, let alone the numerous firearms that were mentioned in the previous testimony. So on the grounds of that, also collectors will not be able to purchase numerous firearms for their collections with sequential serial numbers. And it also impacts nonprofit organizations, fundraising events where they bring firearms and auction them off and people bid on more than one firearm. They're not going to bid on more than one firearm. They will not have that opportunity. For those reasons and the reasons previously covered, we urge your no vote.
Thank you. Others in support? In opposition? We only allow 2 extended comments, so I'll ask you to be very brief.
I will be very brief. Jeffrey Volberg with the California Waterfowl Association. 2 points. One is that this bill restricts licensed hunters who have taken a 10-hour safety course and have a very good safety record and a very, very low crime record. 2, this directly affects our organization because we are one of those nonprofits that raffles firearms. The money goes to conservation of wetlands for waterfowl, and this would create a disincentive for people to bid on those items, and so we are regretfully opposed to the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My name is James Waters, and I'm representing the following organizations: California Deer Association, California Chapter of Wild Sheep Foundation, the Tulare Basin Wetlands Association, California Houndsmen for Conservation, California Bowman State Archery Association, the Black Brant Group, San Francisco Bay Area Chapter of Safari International, Cal-Or Wetlands, the Waterfowl Council, National Wild Turkey Federation, and the Suisun Resource Conservation District. We are in these hunting and conservation organizations are in opposition. One of the reasons mentioned, or that has not been mentioned so far, is during the hunting season, hunter could be hunting waterfowl where he would be using a shotgun, and hunting deer where he'd be using a rifle, 2 separate weapons. So what this bill would force is a person to have to think ahead and months in advance make their decision on buying a rifle for the hunting season or a shotgun. And often these decisions are made at the last minute. So on behalf of these organizations, we are opposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions or comments from committee members? Senator Stone.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I'm very concerned about the hunters, and I'm not a hunter, but one of my best friends is a hunter, and for his 50th birthday, I bought him a beautiful shotgun that he uses to get clay pigeons, and I actually went hunting with him recently, and he has different rifles for different parts of the sport. And so, as you heard, the hunters have a 10-hour safety course. There have not been many incidents of hunters being involved in crimes. So my concern is how you're going to address these people that, some people like to go to basketball games on the weekends. Some people like to go to baseball games on the weekends. Some people, hunting is their recreation. So I'm concerned about that. Also, it was mentioned by one of the opponents that the study that was referenced by the Brady Foundation was an observation from out of state. And as we know, California probably has the most comprehensive gun laws probably in the country. And the opposition is opining, and I tend to agree with them, that this is an unreasonable restriction on our Second Amendment rights. And I'd like to have your opinion on these comments.
Sure, I'll address the first one. I'll let the Brady campaign address the study because I didn't mention the study. But on the hunter look, I would just say plan ahead, number one. I mean, that's the best way to do it. And on top of that, it doesn't eliminate any borrowing restrictions, which would still be in place nonetheless, because this bill doesn't address any of that. But I do want to clear up one point, because it's been said several times now that collectors would be affected. And if you actually take a look at the bill on page 8, number 8, we clearly put that in there in advance to address the collector portion of it. And I also want to correct one last piece. When it was said that if you inherited 150 guns, I believe the number was said, that you'd have to sell them one by one. There's nothing in this bill that says a person has to sell a gun one by one. Clearly somebody buying a gun would have to purchase them one by one, but you could still walk over to a dealer and release all your guns at one time, or any of the nonprofits. And in fact, there's a number of exemptions that we've put on here that would address some of the concerns, at least I think, in terms of comments that we've taken along the way. Look, philosophically, I probably don't see eye to eye with some folks who want to believe that everybody should have as many guns as possible, because I've heard this comment over and over. Everybody's a law-abiding citizen until they're not. And in fact, if you take a look at the tragedy that happened over the weekend, those were purchased legally. So even then, I'd make the argument that there should be further restrictions. And I'll go back to my comment, because you're a law-abiding citizen until you're not and you shoot somebody. But I hope that addresses at least some of the concerns on the hunting portion of it. I'll let one of our witnesses here address the study portion.
And just one follow-up. If you have a 16-year-old, 18-year-old that's having a birthday party and hunting, the family's been involved in hunting, if they're not purchasing, are they allowed to be the beneficiary of gifts of more than one gun per month, or is this only for purchasing those guns by the beneficiary of that gun?
Currently, we wrote through purchasing. I mean, I'd be happy to take a look at it, but the way if I had to answer this at one point in time, I mean, it's not difficult. I mean, you could assume that they'd have to receive them at one time a month, and they'd go through a licensed dealership to do that. But I'd be happy to take a look at that. But I think the goal, nonetheless, and the intent is, from my perspective, is that there's no real reason for one individual to need more than one gun per month. Hypothetically, let's take a look here for a second, that in 12 months, I could buy 12 guns. And if I'm married, I could buy 24 guns in a household. And over 10 years, that's 240 guns. I mean, that's a pretty sizable amount of guns nonetheless.
Understandable.
If you'd like me to address the study you referenced, it was a study of gun trafficking in Pennsylvania, which also has background checks for handguns. But I'd also point out that ATF considers multiple long gun sales throughout the nation a significant indicator of gun trafficking, and specifically in California and other border states with Mexico has placed specific reporting requirements for firearm dealers to report to the FBI and ATF about multiple long gun sales because gun trafficking from the border states to Mexico has been linked to so extensively to multiple long gun sales here in California.
Is that the ongoing practice today with ATF? If I were to go to a local gun dealer in Temecula and buy, 100 guns in a month, would that gun dealer have a requirement to report those sales to ATF? And wouldn't you think that that would probably raise some flags that ATF might want to be concerned about me and why I'm buying so many guns? So, in essence, is this bill really necessary when we have higher authorities that are monitoring these things? I mean, in the state of California, we have an attorney general that can't even keep up with chasing people that shouldn't have guns that do have guns. And here we're again piling on more and more regulations and maybe adding to her burden as the attorney general, going after law-abiding citizens that just want to collect guns or hunt.
We just have a disagreement about that. I think public safety would be improved much more effectively, not by giving ATF necessarily more information, but by preventing dangerous individuals from being able to go out and amass unlimited quantities of guns essentially immediately.
Do you agree that ATF does have that oversight, that they do get reports?
Yeah. Well, here's what I'd add, and it's a philosophical difference. I mean, look, they can have all the information that they want. Certainly, I would support for more information to any law enforcement agency. But at the core of all law enforcement strategy, I would assume that deterrence would be the first step, and in preventing the crime from happening would be the first step. And I think the way I look at it, and philosophically, we're going to look at this a little bit differently. But if preventing the amount of guns getting out on the street and preventing an individual from having a massive collection of guns, if I see this as a deterrent towards gun violence, then certainly I would go for this measure. And it doesn't take away from my support towards law enforcement collecting more information. But I would much rather prevent the crime than to have to collect information about the crime that's now happened. I would have loved to prevent what happened this weekend. And I think everybody here would have loved to have done that.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I would have.
Okay, I'm going to ask the people go through the chair. We're having, this is a subject on which people feel passionately and intellectually.
Yeah.
And let's, try to keep it orderly.
You're correct, and I apologize.
Madam Chair, I certainly respect the difference of opinion that we have. And it was a heinous crime that we saw in Orlando that we all are very upset about. And this is a case where a gentleman purchased basically one rifle and caused significant morbidity and mortality. This was a failure also at the federal level, when the FBI and the State Department was monitoring this individual and probably should have used legal procedures to ensure that this dangerous potential terrorist and admitted terrorist today should have had intervention and didn't have intervention. So there was a failure really at the federal level. It wasn't anything related to him having a legal right to go buy a gun. It was just his political philosophies got in the way of him becoming a very dangerous person, and the failure of, unfortunately, forces beyond your control or my control that allowed this heinous activity to happen. But I respect your position, and I'm going to, opine that our Second Amendment rights are certainly being challenged here in the state capitol at this time. And if this were to pass, it will, I'm sure, will be appropriately litigated. So.
Thank you. Senator Liu.
Thank you.
Thank you. The bill has been moved by Senator Liu. Would you like to close?
I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. I'm going to support the bill that's been moved. I see this as a process of regulation that will lead to greater public safety. So please read the roll.
Hancock?
Aye.
Hancock, aye. Anderson?
No.
Anderson, no. Glazer?
Aye.
Glazer, aye. Leno? Lou? Lou, aye. Monning? Stone?
No.
Stone, no.
We will hold the roll open for the absent members. Thank you very much. Assemblyman Bonta. Item 11,